Okay, this next one's going to be a radial gutter splint, a non-removable radial gutter splint. This one's a little bit more complicated than the ulnar gutter. It's weaker in general. We start off the same way, adding a little bit of cast padding in between the two fingers. Start at the tips, work my way down, wrapping from distal to proximal. You want to try to keep your patient from moving or limit the amount of movement that they're doing, because the movement's just going to cause wrinkles in your cast padding. You always wrap distal to proximal because you want to insanguinate the blood out of the injured arm. 2 finger widths above the antecubital space. 5 to 6 layers of padding. You're going to treat second and third metacarpal injuries and second and third phalangeal fractures as well. Slight pronation, no radial ulnar deviation, and you're going to be able to get those fingers down, or the MCP joints bent to 90 degrees. The PIP and the DIP are going to have to be, or you want them at 0, although some people will ask you to bend those as well at about 30 degrees, and they try to call that position of function. Nowadays we do an intrinsic plus, which is 0 at the PIP and DIP joints. I pre-cut my plaster. I put a little bit of a hole, actually scarred it, and that's where I'm going to place the thumb. Get my plaster, wring it out, make sure that it is laminated. That little scar starts to look like a lot bigger once you dip it in plaster. You do not want your splint to touch. You're creating a cast. So in this particular splint, I'll actually fold the cast material, or the plaster, because it's going to make it stronger. This is a weak point in here. Now, 60s handshake, make sure I got a good mold in the palm, making sure I have slight pronation, no radial ulnar deviation. The last thing I do before this dries is I bring my metacarpal joints down to 90 degrees, intrinsic plus. I verify that I have no wrinkles. Again, 15 degrees of dorsiflexion, 20 degrees of dorsiflexion, somewhere around there. Non-removable radial gutter splint. This one likes to break right inside the web space here. It's just weaker. Why? Because I put a hole in the plaster. Now I'll show you a removable version of this. And this one's a little bit more complicated. I actually cut a hole in my fiberglass. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Again, make sure that I have padding on either border. And fiberglass is very, very rigid. So not only do I make a little scar there, but then I go back and I actually remove the fiberglass in between it, making the fiberglass a circle, but I leave the padding in that same scar so that I have enough padding to protect the patient from the fiberglass. Show you what I mean. Just like that, where the thumb comes through and there's padding all the way around the edge. Now you don't see me dipping my plaster or my removable splints in the bucket of water. I actually just run a little bit of water over the top of it. That's all the manufacturers suggest. This one here being removable, so I don't typically put something in between the fingers when they're removable. It looks like I'm a little bit long, but in actuality my fiberglass is higher. Just like the removable or the non-removable splints, my padding goes down a little further. You're looking at the exact same position we've been doing. You want a little bit of dorsiflexion, about 15-20 degrees, slight pronation. I do a 60s handshake, make sure my material is up against the patient. I'm molding. I'm very aggressive when I mold. I bend the MCPs down to 90 degrees, and I hold. And wait for that to dry. Intrinsic plus. I'm constantly feeling, making sure I have no wrinkles. And that's going to look very nice. Again, second and third metacarpals and phalangeal fractures. You can also use this splint for removable or non-removable for flexor tendon or extensor tendon lax as well.